we have with us today Jim Rogers, Chairman and CEO of Eastman Chemical Company, Kurt Espeland, Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. Stand up, stand up. And this last one, okay. And Mark Costa, I've got this wrong all day, it's a long one. Executive Vice President, Specialty Polymers, Coatings and Adhesive Businesses, and Chief Marketing Officer. Mark, you could stand up. These guys are here with us to take some of your questions. I do want to point out that we do have some callers on the phone. We have some folks from Jefferson, Pennsylvania. We have caller local media from Kingsport, and we hope to have somebody from Longview, Texas, we think, calling in a little bit later. This time I'm going to turn it over to Jim, who's going to make some brief remarks, and then we'll open it up to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Just because there's cameras rolling doesn't mean we can't keep this, informal. And by the way, is it okay if I smile through this? You guys going to be okay with that? It's a good day for Eastman. We are very pleased. And we obviously had a big announcement out this morning. And I am going to keep this very informal, and there's going to be plenty of time for questions, so I'm not going to work from a script. Although I'm sure every word will be written down and sent to the SEC when I'm done, because that's where we are right now. But big announcement out this morning. We are agreeing to buy Solutia. And for those of you who don't know Solutia, it's a company, a specialty chemical performance materials company that was spun out of Monsanto a number of years ago. So it's somewhat similar in that regard, the same way we came out of Kodak. Fantastic company, about $2 billion in revenue, a little over $2 billion in revenue. Maybe more importantly, has $500 million of EBITDA, or cash flow, earnings before interest and tax, depreciation, amortization. It's a business that we've known for some time. If I were to say, highly dedicated professional people, leaders in their markets, nice geographic diversity, nice end market diversity, a play on sustainability, a play on saving energy. You might say, well, wait a minute, are you talking about Eastman or are you talking about Solutia? Well, I'm talking about both. And that kind of leads you to how you can see the fit and why we like this so much. Now, I think our stock's reacting well. I just want to make sure I put things in perspective for you about how this transaction's being perceived. So far, it appears to be being perceived quite positively by all our stakeholders, and for good reason. But I certainly want, in particular the local media, to appreciate why we are where we are today. Okay, how is it we can do this transaction? And I have to give credit to 10,000 Eastman men and women, their dedication, their professionalism, what they have been able to do the past few years to get us to this point in our growth journey. I mean, we are doing this acquisition from a position of strength. This is not something where we need to fill a gap or we're trying to solve a problem. We have a very strong platform from which to grow, and this is a major step for us. But please don't miss the fact the only reason we are in a position to do a transaction of this size is because of the success 10,000 Eastman men and women have had running these core businesses and getting us to this point. Now, we can talk more about what Solutia is like, and we can talk about what it means for Kingsport. I tell you right up front, if the questions get very detailed, the reason these two gentlemen are sitting up front here is because as CEO, I get unlimited lifelines. I can reach out on any kind of question. Seriously, Kurt's group, the financial group, led the financial due diligence. Mark Costa, with the business and supply chain, led the business due diligence. And so they're quite involved and know quite a bit about the company. I just want to make one other comment. We were talking to a bunch of people earlier this morning, and I'll let you know we held Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal to 5 minutes. We held Reuters to 5 minutes. The New York Times to 5 minutes. Bloomberg got 5 minutes. But you all, I'm yours. We'll stay here as long as you want. Okay, and with that, why don't we take some questions? And gents, it's up to you if you want to come up here. I got a hunch you're going to be answering some. But does anyone have a question or something you want us to comment on?
Can you talk about what this means for Kingsport?
I think it's good for Kingsport. That's what it means for Kingsport. If you think about it, you know, when Eastman grows as a global company, obviously we're going to have operations around the world. Obviously we're going to have, you know, money we want to spend in a whole bunch of places. But don't forget, this is our headquarters. Okay, we run a centralized operation. And to the extent we get larger and have more assets to run, no matter where they are in the world, we need more and more capabilities here in Kingsport. So we're talking about, over time, you would expect our headcount to increase, and it'll increase in the professional ranks. And that's good for Kingsport, right, Sharon? We like that. What else? And by the way, if you're on the phone and want to ask a question, I mean, you're probably just going to have to jump in. I doubt it. Do we have an operator or anything?
Actually, we're calling from Kingsport, Pennsylvania. What impact might this have on your Jefferson, Pennsylvania facilities?
Honestly, probably not a whole lot of impact. That's a good, I'm glad you raised the question, though. For those of you who might not have heard it, what impact will it have on Jefferson or a number of our other manufacturing sites? Interestingly, with Solutia, this is not a play where there's overlapping manufacturing assets. So it's not the kind of case that we have a plant that makes a product and they have a plant that makes the same product, and so companies are looking to get together and how do they rationalize. That is not the case here. They make a different set of products. We go to some of the same markets, we have some of the same customers. We think there's going to be overlap in our technology, but you know, concerning our manufacturing, our production, you know, we'll need every reactor we got, every person we got, and so there is no play here in terms of overlapping manufacturing. It's a very quiet bunch.
How much is this transaction costing?
Thank you, because I was probably supposed to say that in prepared remarks that I chose not to use, but our offer is $22 a share in cash, so what we give them is $22 in cash and 0.12 shares of Eastman. So last night when we made the announcement, that was about $27.60 some odd cents for each of their shares. They have 124 million shares, so we're talking about a sizable transaction. I think we ballparked it at about $4.7 billion. Yes, that's the largest thing by far that Eastman Chemical has ever done. That's a big transaction.
What's the timeline look like?
Yeah, I'm asking the same question because I want it sooner rather than later. So on the timeline, the way this acquisition is going to happen is we will get a proxy together. We're two public companies, so we have to disclose everything with the SEC, and they have to review it. The proxy will go out to their shareholders. They will have a meeting at which they vote to approve, hopefully, the acquisition. We would fully expect they will. And then we'll go through the regulatory process of the Hart-Scott-Rodino type approval process, make sure there's no antitrust concerns. There are not. And so our expectation is this is the kind of transaction that ought to be able to close in the middle of the year, probably July timeframe. And I bet a lot of this information's in the package, but please feel free if there's, you know, more you want to ask about or know. I can tell you we're excited across the board. A lot of people worked on this transaction. Obviously something like this takes several months. But I'm very proud of the fact that nothing leaked out. I don't think anyone heard about this coming. Certainly the stock market did not. And again, it goes to what? It goes to Eastman's culture. It goes to our ethical standards. And so I'm very proud of the fact that it was actually a surprise, and as it turns out, a good surprise for the world when we announced this morning. I didn't want to gloss over the fact, by the way, that we had record earnings last year. Anybody catch that in the release? I mean, it's part of the reason I'm smiling. The year was a little soft as we ended up, but it was for the whole industry and many companies. Still one of our best fourth quarters ever, and definitely our best year for earnings overall. And we have guided, and this is part of the reason people like the transaction so much, we've guided up on our earnings. We're saying, so while we did about $4.56, I should be looking at my CFO, $4.56 this past year, we've guided that we should do approximately $5 a share in earnings this year and $6 a share in 2013. And that is guidance that has been raised from what we've said before.
Does this mark a new period of looking at additional acquisitions? Obviously, there's only very little you can say in that, but obviously something like this hasn't really occurred to Eastman in quite some time. In fact, it's been the reverse. We've been looking at
divesting.
right-sizing the
Yeah.
business and maybe investing in things that weren't core businesses. So this is a new step. Do you see additional in the mid to long term, or?
Yeah, let me be complimentary of those who've gone before. There was a lot of work that had to get done to get us to the position where we'd be comfortable doing acquisitions. So there were some hard steps that had to be taken in the past. I do think most of that's behind us. It was probably lost on many, but we have been doing smaller acquisitions for probably the last 2 years. So things that are in the range of 100 million, 150 million. We've done acquisitions in Estonia, of all places, in Brazil. They have manufacturing presence in China, some of the things we've done, and as well as in the States. So, my comfort level was up that we knew how to do acquisitions, we could integrate them well, which is all about reducing the risk of taking this approach to grow. And we got to a point in time where our core businesses are just running so well, the cash flow is so strong. We have a number of organic growth opportunities in our house, opportunities to grow. But we also had the cash flow to pursue much more than that. And so as we looked at the right way to grow Eastman, working with our board of directors, doing an acquisition like this with Solutia made an awful lot of sense. And I would fully expect that while the next 12 to 18 months, as you might imagine, we're going to be kind of focused on digesting something this size. I mean, they have 3,400 employees, just to give you an idea, and they have 20 some odd manufacturing locations around the world. Only a fourth of their sales are in the States. So again, a global company. We're going to be spending all our efforts to integrate this company well, make sure we do it the right way. But frankly, we're going to be ready for more before you know it. And we're going to be able to continue pursuing our organic growth opportunities. And as soon as we feel like we got this one under our belt, maybe pay down a little bit of debt, we'll be ready to go again and see is there another opportunity for us to grow. Is there anything I can pitch to Mark or Kurt? Ask some really technical. Yes, sir.
How do you feel about our Solutia's research culture or their infrastructure and research?
And that I'm going to use that excuse. I was joking, but I'm going to use that excuse to ask Mark to come up. And if you would, Mark, just a little bit about where they are research-wise, their technology, maybe where some of the overlap is. So I'll let Mark Costa take the mic here.
Good afternoon. One of the things that we really liked about Solution and drove us is the quality that they have. So when you're going to do an acquisition of this size, you really want to make sure you're buying high-quality businesses that have great competitive positions in the marketplace, so you're not running into problems that you have to fix. And one of the things that made Solutia quite attractive to us is the quality of their technology portfolio. So they are the strong leaders in every product category they're in. And have a great footprint in those spaces, whether it's rubber additives for tires, the inner layers that go into making safety windows, and a variety of performance films that go in car windows and homes and electronic films. So a great technology portfolio, one that we think have a lot of interesting interconnections to our technology, and so we'll continue to invest and expand both there and our technology together.
Any other questions? Actually, I'm not going to let Kurt come over here and just sit through the whole thing. So one of the things I'm proud of is there may be a question like, gee, doesn't that sound like an awful lot of debt? Isn't this a pretty big acquisition for Eastman? Are you sure you guys can handle all that? What's it do to your credit profile? And when I was a CFO, I loved to brag on my company. So let me get Kurt Espelin up here just to mention how we look credit-wise.
So as Jim mentioned, this is a $4.7 billion transaction that will be financed with a combination of debt, cash, and equity. We have said all along that investment grade credit rating is very important to Eastman. That gives you a lot of financial flexibility, allows you to pursue growth opportunities, and allows you to do some of the things we're doing here. Because of the profile of both Eastman and Solutia, we actually feel this improves our business profile as a company. Higher profitability, more stable earnings, more diversification in our sales. And so we actually are looking for a situation where we think we'll even potentially maintain our investment grade credit rating. That's ultimately up to their rating agencies. There'll be more coming out from them today as they make their assessments. But we feel very good. The profile of this transaction keeps us in a very financially sound status that allows us to do a lot of things yet in the future.
So I don't want to forget about the people who were kind enough to call in. Any other questions from those on the phone? Well, in that case, let me end if I could. We are speaking to the community here, and we take all our stakeholders as being very important people to us. So yes, we have shareholders. Today, they happen to be smiling. They like the transaction. We have customers and suppliers. More than likely, once they figure this all out, they're gonna like this too, because it's probably gonna mean more business for them, or we're gonna be in a better cost position to serve customers. A number of other stakeholders, not the least of which is our employees, and we got separate messaging we're doing for them, but in general, when you can do a transaction like this, it usually means more opportunities for your people when a company's growing than when you're shrinking and selling things off. So it's going to be very positive for our employees. And finally, our communities. I want to, one, assure you that I think this is good for communities that Eastman is already in, and particularly Kingsport, but for the other communities as well as the company gets stronger and bigger. But also a bit of a thank you. When I refer to our culture and our ethics, etc., I know where that's derived from. It's derived from the communities in which our employees grew up, in which they live. And so one of the strengths of Eastman is where our roots are, and our roots are in our communities. And I honestly mean that. I really think that's a strength of Eastman. I admit it, we're not in a big metropolitan area. I don't go to Carnegie Hall on the weekends. I like to run up to the border. But seriously, this is a great work ethic, a great ethical environment in general, and it's part of the reason why we're in the state we are today and why Eastman Chemical is as strong as it is. So I hope that message gets out, just how much Eastman itself appreciates our communities. And with that, I wish you a good day. Thank you.